You everyone please stand. Council President, will you please lead us in the word of prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, as we come together tonight, we ask for your wisdom to guide us into making the best decision for our town, our citizens. Thank you for your presence here, and lead us and guide us in these decisions. We ask this all in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Will you lead us in the pledge allegiance to our flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Jamie Watts.
Present.
Council President Jessica Finch.
Present.
Councilwoman Marion Miller.
Present.
Councilwoman Tanya Long. Present. Town Attorney Patrick Kennedy.
Present. You have in front of you now the minutes of the special call town council meeting dated April 22nd, 2021. Is there any additions or corrections? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes for the special council meeting on Thursday, April 22nd.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. The next thing we have before you now is the agenda for the special call town council meeting dated Thursday, May 6, 2021. This agenda is properly formatted, has been published in the Welaka Daily News on May the 3rd, 2021. Do I hear a motion to accept this agenda?
I make a motion to accept this
I
agenda.
have a motion to accept the agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. All right. Before we get into our main order of business tonight, you have before you a proclamation. It's kind of like a proclamation 2021-03. So many of you may not know this is actually Municipal Clerks Week. It's sponsored through the Florida League of Cities. It talks about the importance of our town clerk. And town clerks actually go back to Roman times. The way I refer to it is this: if the council is the brains of the town, the clerk is definitely the heart of the town. She handles everything from our building department, our codes enforcement. She does our financials, our payroll. She's definitely a big part of what happens in this town, and I rely very heavily on her. And she, yesterday, has been 13 years. 13 years she's been with the town of Welaka. So the Florida League of Cities has a proclamation that was created to honor our town clerk and all town clerks across the state of Florida and the United States. So I'd like to read it now. Town of Welaka Proclamation 2021-03, honoring Town Clerk Jennifer McDaniel and proclaiming May 2nd through 8th, 2021 as Municipal Clerks Week. Whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. And whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public servants. And whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk provides a professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government and other levels. And whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. Whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. Whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations. Whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the municipal clerk. Now, therefore, I, Jamie D. Watts, Mayor of the Town of Welaka, with approval of the Welaka Town Council, do recognize the week of May 2nd through May 8th, 2021 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our municipal clerk, Jennifer Lee McDaniel, and to all municipal clerks for their vital service they perform and their exemplary dedication to the community they represent. Dated this date of May of 2021. Do I hear a motion to accept Town of Welaka Proclamation 2021-03?
I'll make a motion to accept the Town of Welaka's Proclamation 2021-03.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. row. You are welcome. It's a privilege to have. I would say this personally. I work with her every day. She is my eyes and ears, and she handles a lot of business for me, and she makes me look good. And I appreciate you for what you do. You are often the person that people come to when they have problems, and kind of stand between me and them sometimes. So thank you for what you do. All right, we will now get into the order of business. We have one candidate who's not alive yet, I believe. Okay, that's okay. We can go ahead and get into this. So tonight, the order of business tonight, the reason this was called is to interview candidates to fill the vacancy on the Welaka Town Council that was left in the passing of Councilman Willie Washington. He was such a pillar in our community, and whoever comes into this seat, there's a big shoes to fill. I don't think anyone ever fully filled his shoes, but he was a big part of our town. He took our town forward, and he made great strides to make our community better. So we are forever grateful in his debt for what he did. So we're going to have the interviewing of the candidates tonight. The council members have sent in questions prior to the meeting tonight. These questions will be asked of each of the prospective candidates in order to allow the council to better hear what's being said by the candidates. The town attorney tonight is actually going to ask the questions for us since he's kind of neutral in this thing, and then will allow us to be able to listen to the responses. So what we're going to do is, I'm not going to call for fairness, we'll call each candidate in alphabetical order. This is a public meeting. I cannot ask y'all to leave, but I would ask you to step out in consideration of your fellow candidates, and then we'll call each one of you in one by one when we're finished. We'll have you go out, and then your fellow candidate will come in, and then once we're done with the interview process, we'll have you all come in after that. So if y'all wouldn't mind, Ms. Washington, if you would be happy to step out for us for a second, if that's okay. And then Raymond, if you will come up to the podium here. I'd like for you to please state your name and your address. So we do need to get an official record of this. There we go. So I ask you, that mic is, you have to be close to that mic when you speak, so make sure you stay close to it because we need an official record.
And my voice carries.
Okay. There's our third candidate right there. So you're fine. We're actually getting ready to start the interview process. Before you sit down, sit down. What we're doing is actually each of the candidates to step out, and then we'll call you in one by one for the interview process. So we're actually getting ready to interview him. If you wouldn't mind stepping out, we'll call you back in, and the fellow candidates will step out while you're being interviewed. So thank you. So if you can state your name for the record and your address, and then our town attorney will get into the questioning.
First, I want to apologize for my attire. I just spent $8,000 recarpeting my house a month ago, and I've had 3 inspectors come to look because the colors don't match on the seam. So this inspector tore the seam apart and wanted to leave it. So I said, no. He had to get numbers from the bottom, so I spent all afternoon on my hands and knees with a carpet inspector plating, and I won, but anyway. So, my name is Raymond Rorick. I live at 601 First Avenue.
Okay, and I'll let you go for it, sir.
I'm going to ask you the questions, but you can address their answers to them. You don't need to address them to me. I'm just going to try to stick to the script here for each candidate, so you should all have the same questions and your individual answers to each. So I'll just start from the top. If this had been an election and you were running for the seat, what would be your platform?
What would be my platform? It's rather simple. This is my home. I've spent my life dedicated to public service and making my country better. And every place I have lived, I have done thousands of hours of volunteer service for the community to improve the community. So my personal feelings are that anybody who wants to be part of a community needs to jump in with 2 feet and get involved, volunteering, making our home better for all of us.
Okay. It is obvious to most that Welaka is undergoing growth. Depending on your view of this, as a council person, would you encourage it or discourage it?
I would encourage growth in the community. If you're not growing, you're dying. And I think it's very relevant that we grow in a manageable fashions, meaning building codes, following current laws and everything else. But yes, we need growth.
The follow-up to that is how would you encourage growth then?
Well, and one thing I'm not familiar with, I think our town needs a chamber of commerce or a more, and talked about it at other meetings, but a better website so we can show what Welaka has to offer for our community. I literally found Welaka traveling through it on my way to the intercoastal waterway and stopped for the night and then ended up tying up for a couple months and then buying it. It's a beautiful town and we need to advertise and promote that on our websites at least.
Okay. What area do you think Welaka could improve upon?
So because my street's rough, it doesn't mean we have to have new streets. But some of the improvements that would be beneficial is, and I've heard discussion, so it's not that I'm taking something from it, but another law officer, evenings, weekends, part-time, something to help our current chief. I think we need to have better regulations on four-wheelers, side-by-sides, and golf carts. Most of the people I talk to don't have a clue that you can't run like four-wheelers, and get more specific on the codes. And our streets, I mean, if money was no object, I would say we need to improve our streets. But since money is a problem, and it's hard to get into it because I don't know the financial and what it costs, but that would be one of the things that we could use. The other thing, we have some abandoned buildings, I think is a good way to put it. And this is part of the code, but I think we need to have a stricter code on abandoned properties and knee-high grass on these so that our community looks uniform.
Are you willing to render decisions regarding policies that are in the best interest of the public, even when they may be somewhat difficult to you personally?
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing is personal, so if I take this position and you vote me in, my views inside personally, if we were to meet at lunch and talk about something, and what I would do for the town is what the council and the mayor think is the best for the community. Whether I like it or not, it's for the growth of the community, not my personal. I have no personal gain here.
What skills, knowledge, or professional experience would you contribute to your effectiveness in serving on the town council?
Well, I have a grant writing background. I have spent over 15 years chasing down grants for our volunteer fire department, grants for the sheriff's office. I have a strong law enforcement background because I spent 4 years as and this was all in my bio that I submitted, so it's repetition, but I spent 4 years as a deputy sheriff in Montana as a reserve officer with no pay, and had full authority in the state of Montana. Reserve officer, full authority. You just don't get a paycheck, nor do you get a pension. So I spent 1,800 hours a year dedicated to that community on working a lot with school, with the kids, with the drug task force team, drug recognition, promoting children to avoid the drugs. We had a big drug identification program in the schools that I headed up. Also, one of my other strengths that I would say is important is that the ability to get, and I talked about it earlier, the ability to get grants and write grants for a community this size is I came from a town of 450. So we had nothing. We had no tax base, we had no industry. So I got a new city pumper, it was a $2 million grant. I got new turnouts, it was $1.2 million for turnouts. There's a lot of money out there, it's free. And I'm definitely willing to work with a grant writer or chase that for the community.
Why is serving on the town council important to you?
Well, I've said my entire life, and I've been told by my father, if you don't like the way something is, get involved and help change it. And just since this year has come up and since the mayor has been elected, I've been at these meetings, and there's a lot of talk of finally, or working on getting all of our codes up to date, current, code enforcement, and that whole process with the codes, I think, is really critical.
What 3 words best describe you?
3 words.
3 words, I'm just reading.
Yep. You think somebody likes to get a microphone and talk for a half hour, it goes to 3 words. 3 words that best describe me. I believe in God.
All right. How do you feel about the need to balance governmental oversight versus personal property rights?
Well, government oversight, that's an oxymoron, government oversight over personal property. And so the government, we need the government to have regulations. Just because you buy a piece of property doesn't mean that you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, that anything you want to do with it. So oversight, meaning codes, once again, it's critical that we have codes. The government needs to set those codes, the government needs to enforce those codes so that we have a uniform system for all residents of that community.
Are you related to anyone who currently works for the town of Welaka?
Don't know any, I know some people, I have no relatives within 1,000 miles.
If we decided to hold a special election instead of appointing this position, would you go through the process of qualifying to run for the seat?
Yes,
Okay. Do you see yourself as wanting to serve on the town council for the long term?
yes,
These are easy. If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, what do you see as your role in the operations of the town?
Well, my role is going to be to serve at the pleasure of the mayor. And so whatever he feels my background and my knowledge and expertise is, and he wants me to move in that direction, I will do as I'm asked by fellow council members and the mayor.
With 5 members on the Welaka Town Council, it means there are 5 different opinions, which often leads to civil debate during the meetings. Do you feel like you could express your opinion in a way that would still be tolerant of other members' views and foster compromise?
Yes, quite easy. I will not agree with everybody all the time, ever. I am not a yes man. But I can guarantee you, at the end of the meeting, when everybody places their views, I will agree with the majority that they want it, and we will walk out as friends regardless of how it gets.
If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, what do you see as a priority that you would like to work on when coming into office?
Well, from the meetings that I've been attending in the last 3 or 4 months since the mayor took over this office, the reason I came forward and asked about this was that I like the mayor's direction. I like the idea that he wants to bring the codes current. I like the idea that he wants to either change them, improve them, or at least make them equal to the rest of the state and communities our size, and then enforce them. So I'm very interested in code enforcement, and whatever direction that the council and the mayor feel my services are best served.
We got 2 more.
Okay?
If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, you will be subject to the same level of criticism as any other council member. how do you think you would handle it, especially if publicly confronted in the community about a matter?
Well, would have to handle, it's handled ethically, responsibly, and politely. In most cases, and I've run into quite a few over noise and four-wheelers and different things that have been going on as a discussion in our community. And I tell them they need to read the code, they need to talk to the council, which if I was there, they would have to talk to me. And that this is the way the law is, and they need to get active in the community and change the law if they don't like it.
Last one. Being on the Welaka Town Council requires a certain amount of time and commitment. Do you feel like you have the time it would take to keep up to date on all the town matters and be available to residents to answer questions and respond to concerns?
Well, that's a good question. I am fully employed. I'm still in a business. I sell underwater cameras. This is my office. Nobody ever sees me without it. I work 7 days a week like most everybody else who has certain jobs. Fortunately, it only takes 2 minutes to a phone call and emails that I answer. So I can dedicate the rest of my 7 days to the city council. On my website, on the internet that's been there for 23 years, I have my personal cell phone number. Every customer I've had for 23 years, all 8,000 of them know I answer this phone 7 days a week when I'm awake. I would do the same for the city because I only get maybe 8 or 10 phone calls a week. So I have lots of time to throw at it.
Thank you, Patrick. Before we close out, before we leave for dismiss, would you, if there's anything else you'd like to share with the council, at this moment, we'll give you the opportunity to speak to the council directly.
I appreciate that. I think I said my background and what I believe in my resume that I submitted that was published. You've all read that. I believe that every citizen, though they're not here, but every citizen should feel a need to do something for their community. I am not impressed with people who move into a town and want the town to make everything the way it was in their old town. Our community is the way it is because of the people that were here for centuries. And they started a tradition. And so I believe in God and country. So you serve God, you serve your country, and it's all to make life better for our community and our citizens. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you. Dismissed. Madam Deputy Clerk, Madam Deputy Clerk, can you go get Michael and bring him in, please?
Still want to be safe.
Thank you. So if we can have you state your full name and your address, and he will begin questions.
Michael John Stanner, 99 Broad Street, Unit 2305.
I'm going to be asking the questions, but these are their questions. So
Gotcha.
you address your answers to them. This is just a way for them to be able to listen and focus on their answers. So we'll just start from the top. If this had been an election and you were running for the seat, what would be your platform?
My platform would actually be pro-business and pro-economics. I know that the town runs on a very tight fiscal budget and has a lot of responsibilities. My background has been as a C-level executive in a lot of different companies, mostly in finance and in the turnaround world, where I was plopped into companies that had limited resources with a lot of tasks that we needed to provide. So I think my focus would have been a little bit more economic based.
It is obvious to most that Welaka is undergoing growth. Depending on your view of this as a council person, would you encourage it or discourage it?
I think there's two sides to that. So I think limited and controlled growth is really what's important. And a lot of people are here because they like the small town feeling. And we've avoided the hustle and bustle and they've relocated from major metropolitan areas to come here. And we certainly can appreciate that. That being said, I think a lot of residents would like more services in the town. A barber shop, a laundromat, a couple more restaurants, I don't know. So when I was growing up, I grew up in a relatively small town and we had a nice shopping center in one side of the village, and you could walk across Main Street to the ice cream store and the pizza shop and the bank and all that. And the grocery store that was in this plaza wanted the new and fancy grocery store, so the town had allowed them to relocate that about 1.5 miles out of the village. And guess what happened? That village had an abandoned 150,000 square foot plaza for many years. And conversely, a town that I spent a lot of my time in up north for the past 20 years, when that same grocery store chain wanted to do that, the town said, that's okay, we'll allow that, but we want a redevelopment plan for the empty 40,000 foot building that you're gonna have on our Main Street. So I just think it's important to kind of control it and be thoughtful about it and thinking long term about the things that happen.
Okay, there's a part two to this. And you described your vision for the managed growth. How would you achieve that vision? How would you?
Again, I think you need to be careful about what type of businesses you let in, where you allow them to relocate, how big you allow them to be. Okay.
What area do you think Welaka could improve upon?
Well, I get stopped at the red light every time I go through it. Can we fix it? To be honest with you, coming in from the outside almost 2.5 years ago, I think most of the people here have seen what I've done over at RPS Metal Roofing and beyond. My head's really been buried in weeds over there for a couple of years. To be honest with you, don't really have a clear answer to that without knowing really what the public desire is through some form of a survey or whatnot, and then trying to figure out how you prioritize and fulfill those needs.
Are you willing to render decisions regarding policies that are in the best interest of the public, even when they may be somewhat difficult to you personally?
Yes, sir.
What skills, knowledge, or professional experience would you contribute to your effectiveness in serving on the town council?
Again, it kind of comes back to my finance situation. So I've been a practicing CPA for going on 30 years. I was in public accounting for about 5 years. Done a lot of consulting to big companies. I've been a C-level executive in about 25 different companies, ranging from startups to 300 million, 4,000 employee companies. Again, most of that being in a turnaround world where you had to be really quick and creative about where you got to things. So I think I don't really call it experience, I call it more exposure. I've seen a lot of things. And so through that, I think there's always, the world's not always real, it's kind of a copycat world. But I've been exposed to a lot of things that I think I could bring to the table. And for example, I think in the September of 19 audit, there was an audit deficiency brought up by the auditors with respect to accounting practices and internal controls. And that's something that I could obviously have expertise to be a lot about.
Why is serving on the town council important to you?
I became, I kind of came down here and invested heavily in the community, fell in love with the community. I spend 90% of my time here, definitely here Monday through Friday. So I would just like to be involved and help shape the community as one of the largest business owners and resident in the town.
Okay. What 3 words best describe you?
Intuitive, strategic, and action.
How do you feel about the need to balance governmental oversight versus personal property rights?
That's a great question. Can I get further definition of personal property rights?
I think this is referring basically to code enforcement,
Yep.
dealing with people who.
I think it's important that everybody be treated equally and fairly.
Are you related to anyone who currently works for the town of Welaka?
I am not.
If If we decided to hold a special election instead of appointing this position, would you go through the process of qualifying to run for the seat?
Yes, I will.
Do you see yourself as wanting to serve on the town council for the long term?
Yes.
If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, what do you see as your role in the operations of the town?
I think being able to support Jamie, being able to bring some analysis to the table, understanding operations. Jamie's obviously rolled up his sleeves and dug into it quite a bit. So I just would be supportive in any way or manner, task, or where I felt I could add value.
With 5 members on the Welaka Town Council, it means that there are 5 different opinions, which often leads to civil debate during the meetings. Do you feel like you could express your opinion in a way that will still be tolerant of other members' views and foster compromise?
I think boardroom experiences I've had with large organizations has prepped me for that very well.
If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, what do you see as a priority that you would like to work on upon coming to office?
Again, I'd really like to understand the desires of the community, and I'm not sure if a survey of that type of matter has been completed or not. And I think, we really need to build the roadmap. I mean, vision where we want the town 5, 10, 15 years from now. Build a roadmap to those milestones, and figure out how to execute the plan in the most efficient and effective manner.
If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, you will be subject to the same level of criticism as other council members. How do you think you would handle it, especially if publicly confronted in the community about a matter?
I think I'd be very well led. I'd have a lot of irate customers that show up at RPS on a weekly basis.
Okay, last question. Being on the Welaka Town Council requires a certain amount of time and commitment. Do you feel like you have the time it will take to keep up to date on all town matters and be available to residents to answer questions and respond to concerns?
Yep, no problem.
All right, before we dismiss you, is there anything you'd like to share with the council? Feel free to do so at this time.
No, I've had a lot of exposure to a lot of things. I came into this town, showed up at Jessica's place at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday night. She didn't leave a light on for me. I just walked around with a flashlight trying to find my cottage. And to be honest with you, COVID was the best thing that happened to me because I was able to meet a lot of very beautiful residents in town and have all become very good friends. We worked very hard to, what I did over there, I didn't necessarily do for the town. It's how I operate and what I do, to the point where we, several months ago, we even painted the roofs on these buildings on 3rd Street because they were multicolored, and I didn't think it looked good. So I think we've done a very terrific job of cleaning up a good portion of Main Street in the town. I've had at least 25 people stop in and say thank you. And I just want to be able to contribute like that to town in a bigger, broader manner.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, I appreciate it. Madam, you go back at you, please. These candidates are getting a real small taste of what we have to face. Not there, yes, ma'am. So if you can do me a favor, if you can state your name and your address for the record, and then our town attorney is going to ask you the question. So we ask you to stay kind of close to the microphone because it's being recorded for recording purposes. So thank you.
Kathy Washington, my address is 1006 Elm Street, Welaka, Florida, 32193. For physical mailing, P.O. Box 384, Welaka, Florida, 32193.
Now, I'm going to be asking questions. These are not my questions. These came from the council, and so you just direct your answers to them. I'm just the messenger. You just provide your answers to them, okay? And we'll start from the top. If this had been an election and you were running for the seat, what would be your platform?
Adversity and failures.
Okay.
it's hard for us
It's
to
up to
hear.
you.
Yes, it's up to you if you want to, but it's hard for them to hear you as well.
If you're comfortable, you don't.
Yeah, if you're comfortable with it, you okay? Okay. Can you repeat that last statement?
Okay. If this had been an election and you were running for the seat, what would be your platform?
As stated, diversity and fairness.
Okay.
It's obvious to most that Welaka is undergoing growth. Depending on your view of this, as a council person, would you encourage it or discourage it?
We say
Would you encourage growth or discourage growth in Welaka?
encourage folks.
Growth.
Definitely.
Yeah, growth. Okay. And how would you go about encouraging growth?
Getting out and being among the people, being visible, and definitely making a statement of why it's important to vote.
Oh no, I think you misunderstood the question. I thought maybe you did. It's growth, not votes. Would you encourage growth or discourage growth?
Oh, definitely encourage growth.
Okay.
Um,
And how would you do that?
by way of something that has happened since I've been back home is that we have the technology to pay our water bills online. To me, that is a growth with technology.
What area do you think Welaka could improve upon?
Well, that's a difficult question. Can I come back to it?
Sure. It's my place there. Okay. Are you willing to render decisions regarding policies that are in the best interest of the public, even when they may be somewhat difficult for you personally?
Of course.
What skills, knowledge, or professional experience would you contribute to your effectiveness in serving on the town council?
Well, my experience is being that I'm a native of Welaka. So I definitely have firsthand knowledge of a lot of the residents that are here. Also, I can bring to the table of being able I apologize. As I stated, with my experience being a native, also I have had the opportunity and experience of dealing with a lot of different cultures and living among different people of ethnic groups.
Why is serving on the town council important to you?
Because it's to give back to my hometown.
What 3 words best describe you?
Integrity, honesty, perseverance.
How do you feel about the need to balance governmental oversight versus personal property rights?
Well, I think the government has its place, as well as with the personal rights, but it depends on what the situation is.
Are you related to anyone who currently works for the town of Welaka?
Yes.
We don't. If we decided to hold a special election instead of appointing this position, would you go through the process of qualifying to run for the seat?
Yes.
Do you see yourself as wanting to serve on the town council for the long term?
Yes, I do.
If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, what do you see as your role in the operations of the town?
Visibility. Letting the people know who I am, that I will listen, and hopefully they feel free to come to me with concerns.
Okay. With 5 members on the Welaka Town Council, it means there are 5 different opinions, which often leads to civil debate during the meetings. Do you feel like you could express your opinion in a way that will still be tolerant of other members' views and foster a compromise?
Of course, and I believe in being team player in a respectful, professional manner.
If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, what do you see as a priority that you would like to work on coming into office?
Well, probably to see a route for people to walk and cyclists to walk on without being on the road. So a path.
Only 2 more questions. Well, we got 3 for you. We got to go back. Don't forget that. If appointed to the Welaka Town Council, you will be subject to the same level of criticism as any other council member. How do you think you would handle it, especially if publicly confronted in the community about a matter?
With honesty.
Being on the Welaka Town Council requires a certain amount of time and commitment. Do you feel like you have the time it will take to keep up to date on all town matters and be available to residents to answer questions and respond to concerns?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Back up to the question. What area do you think Welaka could improve upon?
I want to say more unity because we can never be where we have too much of unity. So if I had to say anything, I would say unity.
Okay.
Ms. Kathy, before we dismiss you, is there anything you'd like to say to the council to address your final closing statement?
Well, I basically want to say that I'm honored to have this privilege to actually stand before peers of Welaka. I honestly did not think I would be doing this, but as I did speak to several individuals, I said, well, I have to see how God directs me. And that is what I went on. So again, it would be an honor, it would be a privilege to be able to sit on the Welaka Council, being I am a native of Welaka.
Thank you, Ms. Kathy. We dismiss that. Madam Deputy Clerk. Thank you. You're right. They can go out. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you go out and tell them to remain outside just for a moment, please?
I'm sorry.
Will you let them know to please remain outside just for a moment? Just a moment. That went actually very well. Patrick, thank you. That went very well. And we got through it in actually in a decent amount of time.
Just so you know, you guys didn't know, I talked to Jamie. The one question I didn't ask.
You struck it.
It's because it's a given that
You have
to abstain.
It's not. The question he's referring to was if you're related to anyone and if that person came before the council, would you be able to be fair about it, or would you have to recuse yourself? And the attorney basically said that you'd have to abstain from that. So we struck the question. It was actually my question. Before we knock them back in, does the council wish to debate this in the presence of members, or do they wish to debate it before we bring them back in? It's up to you. And it could be a little bit touchy with having everyone sitting here at the public meeting, open up to, how does, Madam Council President, how do you feel about it? Would you prefer?
I'm open to whatever the rest of you feel. I think I'm comfortable anyway.
Okay.
I mean, I think they understand that there's going to be different opinions among us. And
Sure.
you know what I'm saying? If you can't understand that, and if that upsets you, then it's going to be difficult for you to serve when there's constantly, that's what we have to do is discuss things that we might not agree on.
Ms. Mariana, you all right with that?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I'm fine with it as well. Madam Deputy Clerk, will you please invite them back in service? We're playing aerobics today, aren't we?
I think you got your
Here we
shirt
go.
on. Yeah.
here, be there.
On second
So,
thought, come back.
This is the second time that I've sat on the Welaka Town Council and been a part of the selection of a council member appointed by the council per the charter. And I'm excited about the way we did this in the sense that the charter, and Ms. Kennedy can attest to that, the charter is very vague on how this process will take place.
Okay.
Yeah, it says it will be picked from the remaining members. So it was nice to see the council come together and to create a process for that and have a ability for people to put their names forward and be considered and then questioned with the town president and then go through this process. So I think, and commend each council member for being a part of this and working through this. And I think you've been in government for a long time, Mr. Kennedy. Is it a fair statement to say this moved pretty quickly? First off,
I think it's a good process, and I think they're ready to spend the next good farmers. It's going on.
okay. So that being said, we've heard all three of our candidates speak tonight and answer the questions. So I'd like to open it up to council. I'll start with our council president. Welcome, council president. So we'll start with you.
Is this a time for us to discuss or us to ask them additional questions?
I think when we ask them additional questions, we have to make sure that we have to let all three of them answer the questions. We need to be fair to everyone. But if you're a council member,
I think the only exception I would make is if you didn't understand an answer and you need to clarify,
yeah.
maybe you would have to do that with each one of them. I think it's. Everybody's staring at you, man.
Well, I would say that I feel honored that we have such great candidates that have come before us. I do feel we have some terrific candidates. I feel like that even if, I mean, obviously only one is going to be picked, but I hope that there would be a place for you all to volunteer or serve on in another aspect in the town, because I heard some great things today. I didn't know quite a bit of what I heard, so it was very informative to me.
And I think there's opportunity for two of the candidates to serve on other boards, such as our Citizens Advisory Board or one of our other boards too. So I don't think we let that talent go to waste.
Right, the fact that they've expressed interest in going through this and
Yes.
appeared through, how many questions? 15 questions or whatever it is. I mean, that
Okay.
shows a willingness to serve.
I said before y'all came in, I got a little taste of what it's like to run for political office. On the spot like that. So, Councilwoman Edwards.
Oh, I don't really have anything to add, but I do want to thank the three of you for being here and putting in your applications. I know it's a lot to think about, especially when you haven't actually run for a position. And I think we have three great candidates, and it's going to be hard to make a decision.
I just want to thank all three of you. And for us, it's a difficult decision, but I think that we have to truly decide who is the best person that's going to bring the most to the table. There can be a lot of emotional, like this person and that person. We have to forget about all that, how they answered the question, and moving forward, which one of the three can best serve the open seat moving forward, and who has the ability when the next election comes, to hopefully then get the vote from the citizens. And at that time, they may or they may not be reelected. But I think it's for us, if everybody else was sitting here like when we were out asking questions, you walk away from it, did you learn a little bit more? Do you feel like they are going to be a valued asset? And it's gonna be tough to say no to two of them because all three of them are great, but I just feel like we have to choose who's going to be best, even though it's a limited time.
I agree with you. I think that all of you performed very well tonight. I know that you had to be nervous because we're not doing acting, you still get butterflies. You never know what's going to be said, and we try to be fair to each of you by letting the other two not hear what's going to be said from the first and vice versa. I had said in the Facebook post that each and every one of y'all would make a good addition to this town council. I found you to all be respected in the community. And my clerk and I were talking in here this afternoon, and I said that it's something to put your name forward, whether you're putting your name forward in an appointed position for this council or to run for office. It's quite a feat to do that, and you're to be commended if you're willing to step up and put yourself out there and to serve our community. I didn't realize when I became mayor, I had an idea of what I was getting into, and then I got into it and realized it was about double what I thought it was. So you have a lot to you'll learn a lot going forward. So, Mr. Kennedy, would you say it would be appropriate to call for a motion on one of these candidates, or what would you feel would be the best way to move forward from here?
You could do that. If I recall correctly, it was at the last meeting, the discussion was you digest what you learned today and actually vote at the next meeting, but you don't have to do it that way. Because this is a noticed meeting, so you can make a decision tonight if you're comfortable with your decision. But it was stated that you had a debate about whether they would just immediately come sit in the seat
Right.
after that, and although some of you might have said that'd be too much, my idea is that they should sit there right away.
We have I will tell you, it wouldn't matter, let me say this first. We could set the agenda up in a way that would allow us to vote that night prior to Mr. Reynolds, public court's going to be there that night to swear in. And I don't think it would be out of ordinary if that person's chosen that night to be sworn in that night. But I'm not opposed to I'm not opposed either way to this. So it's really up to the will and pleasure of the council if y'all wish to digest this further, or do you wish to, is it appropriate for some council member to make a motion? Or
It would be if they believe they are, they can test the waters, you can't really figure it out until you guys start talking.
So if a council member would like to make a motion at this time, I would entertain a motion for any of these three candidates. If we get a second, we can enter into this discussion about that. So it's kind of really up to y'all how y'all wish to do this. Don't everybody talk at once.
I make a motion to appoint Michael Staten.
I have a motion to appoint Michael Staten. Do I hear a second to that motion?
I think right now, if there's not a second, we need just a moment to digest a little bit of it. Myself, I do. Does anybody else feel the same, that we need a chance to digest what we've heard from them our few moments? Are you ready to make a decision?
Okay, I mean, we can do that, or do you wish to?
We have a motion on the floor. So
We do. Do we have a motion on the floor? Do I have a second to that motion at this time? Motion fails for lack of a second. Okay, at this time, Madam Council President, you need a few minutes.
Well, I'm just thinking, because each candidate or each potential candidate has expressed an interest. This is not a seat filler. They're not filling a seat.
Yes.
This is something that they are willing to continue forward in the next election cycle. So, I mean, that's a wonderful thing. That's a commitment. And I think that obviously whoever we appoint, I'm not saying we're giving them an advantage, but we kind of are for the next election. And I'm just thinking about that, because I'm not just looking at the next 6 to 8 months. I'm looking at the next election cycle. So just, that's all.
I am not opposed at all. I know Councilwoman Milledge, you make your decision. I am not opposed at all to rearranging the schedule. I do not think that it would be really detrimental to, we got a council meeting coming up on Tuesday night at 5:30. I don't have no issue with rearranging the agenda slightly to address that first. Would that make you feel more comfortable, give you a couple days to think it over, or?
I mean, I feel comfortable right now. I just
Okay.
think we need to probably discuss it a little more.
Okay.
But I'm willing also to.
It's however, at this point, I'm entertaining a motion, or
Right.
however y'all wish to do it, or we can have a discussion. I'm leaving this to the council to decide what they want to do.
I know we've done a little bit of a yo-yo on this, but would you guys feel more comfortable having a discussion without the candidates, all three of them sitting in front of you, or would you? I know you said you wouldn't, but
I would actually myself, but that's my personal, whatever the council wishes to decide.
just might help you be a little open about. I know you already said you wouldn't mind, but it seems like everyone's kind of hesitant to talk here right now. Just offering that as a
It
suggestion.
is kind of a difficult decision.
Typically, in a standard interview process, the candidates would be stepped down while you guys deliberate.
Would y'all mind stepping out just for a second?
Sorry.
Thank you.
I think it just makes it a little easier.
Okay. Let me let Tom Stowe out there a second. I find all three candidates to be very knowledgeable. I find them to have the willingness to want to serve. I'm kind of torn a little bit. I think Michael has definitely got the knowledge and the education. I think it's very fitting for Ms. Washington to be a part of the council. I know she's been a part of the community for a long time. Her father served on the council. I'm sure she's got some experience that has come out of that. I think Raymond has got experience too in what he's done. I'm not going to give you a whole lot of direction here because I'm torn myself on what I see here. I think that each candidate has qualities that we're looking for to be a part of this council, and it's going to be a tough decision.
I feel like it's a short period of time, and the person really has to have the ability to hit the ground running. You're not really going to have all these months to try to feel like you're going to be able to speak up or to learn different aspects. I feel like we need to take advantage of whoever we choose for the next 6 months that has the most knowledge that could assist us for the next 6 or 7 months, and then let the public decide. So that's just where I'm coming from. But I support wholly, any of the three. I'm not,
Mr. Secretary, how long is it exactly? Qualifying period is January. It is January, is it not?
Starts first week of January. Y'all have a 14-day period. Somewhere around the 4th or 5th of January.
So that decision would be made. Yeah. So it's
And again, it goes back to your charter that Jennifer and I figured out, and that was your charter says 60 days is the maximum that it could be. And you used to do it in December.
We did.
It was not
Right.
supposed to happen. But
Right.
So with election first Tuesday of March, that it would be roughly about the second week of January, first and second week of January.
and Council President Finch, I agree with you too, because by appointing someone, we are making them the incumbent, and there's
Right.
always an advantage for the incumbent coming in. That's part of the process too. So I fully agree with you on that.
Well, they did all express interest that they wanted to
They did.
continue on, which
Yeah.
does give them that somewhat of an advantage.
6 months of experience might change their mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm going to go this way if it's okay. Councilwoman Finch, is there something you'd like to share with us? Are you-
No, I'm in agreement with you. I'm torn. I see, obviously, I'm excited by some of the ideas that Michael brought to the table. I'm a little, but Kathy is she's been my preferred, who I thought would be, honoring her dad. So of course, and then I think Ray's got good ideas too. So I am torn. I'm not saying Kathy doesn't, and that's not to say Kathy doesn't have good ideas. I'm sure she does. He was just expressing them more so. We heard more of his thoughts on that. And maybe that's why I was wondering, can we ask additional questions? But because we really didn't get to the meat of what maybe, some people are nervous when they're going there.
Right.
I'm nervous for them. so I'm just trying to consider all aspects of it in my mind. Michael, also I'm a little concerned with his schedule. Perhaps that, we've got some daytime meetings sometimes, not as much now.
Right.
It is a position that we're gonna have more meetings going over these.
Absolutely. With the ordinances, comp plan, zoning, and our charter, there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be happening that is to be
But
considered.
I think all three of them could probably bring a perspective that would be welcome, so.
Yeah, well, I like the fact that Kathy Washington is a native of Welaka. We could use diversity on this council. We've had diversity in the past, before Willie Washington, of course. And I think Kathy would bring a lot to the table because she is in her community, she's very well known in her community. And we don't have anybody representing that community sitting on the council. And so therefore, Kathy Washington would be my choice for the council to take this position at this time.
And I would agree with you that I think it is important that all parts of the community are represented, feel equally represented. So, and that is another thing that's played into my decision on this process too, because I thought about that, and I think that she has worked with her father. You know, she's been around him, she's seen what he's dealt with through the years too. So I would agree.
Well, you know, also knowing Willie, they're a very private family, and they're not great talkers. You know, not like I get going and I talk a lot. It's the Italianness in me. But you know, she has great ideas, and like I said, I just want to see diversity on this council because we don't have it right now. That's
I'm okay being the only man on the council, so.
yeah,
I can represent this man, so it's all right. So, is there any other council member, Councilman Finch, who wants to add?
No, I mean,
But I don't feel like it should be, we should make that decision strictly to honor who her father is. I think that it has to be, and I agree, she has so much she can bring to the table. So, but it's not just, because I feel like he was a wonderful man and we have honored him, but we have to make the choice based on moving forward for the town and what's going to be best for the town.
Okay. So,
that's for you to.
I have nothing else to add at this time. I'm going to at this point going to call for a second attempt at a motion to be made for one of these three candidates. Do I hear a motion for any of the candidates that are coming forward tonight to fill this position?
well, I make a motion to appoint Kathy Washington to the council.
I have a motion to appoint Kathy Washington to the council. Do I hear a second? All right, motion dies for the lack of a second. So we're right back. I would say that this is a pretty tough decision. We've gone through two different attempts to appoint a member tonight. I think that it's obvious that the council still, I think a couple have made their decision. I'm still a little torn myself. I think you certainly are, it sounds like. I would entertain a motion to be postponing this to the council meeting on May the 11th at 6:30 p.m. We can rearrange the schedule that night. We can postpone it. We can make our pick that night. We're going to have to make our pick that night. And then Mr. Reynolds will be here and can swear in. So,
I have in the past week gotten some feedback from the community regarding some of the candidates.
okay.
I mean, I'm sure some of you have as well. Would this be appropriate to, I also want a decision that our town will support.
Sure.
Is this appropriate to
Sure.
continue to solicit opinions from our citizens, or is this just strictly right now? I mean, we're not asking for public comment now, so.
Well, you're gonna get it whether you like it or not.
I mean, I think, like, at this point, if council wishes to open public comment, I have no issue with that either. So, y'all would like to open it up, I can certainly do so.
I think one thing you're gonna realize it's just a tough
It's gonna be a tough decision.
And,
So-
and as much as input from the folks sitting out
Yeah,
here,
exactly, it's gonna still come down to four of us.
I don't think it's gonna make it easier, I'll just put it to you that way. So
So-
you guys know who you're dealing with as well as anybody in the audience at this point. That's just my recommendation, you can certainly.
Is it
I mean,
inappropriate?
I'm not trying personally to be indecisive, but
No, you're not.
I was approached, I mean, I was actually surprised by how well, you know, everyone appeared and came forth, and I feel like I'm talking to you, but. But I mean, everybody, I mean, they came to the table with a lot, and I see different points here.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to consider the point that Mary Ann said, which I completely agree with, and the point that Tanya said, which I also completely agree with. Which makes it a difficult decision, but we are here to make decisions, so.
Yeah, it's a little easier for us to run the ballot laws. It's so publicly done, so, would you,
So you would not suggest opening up to public comment at this point?
That would be my suggestion.
Not to.
Not to. It's not gonna help you, I promise you.
You don't
It might make it
think-
harder.
You don't think it would push the vote forward tonight?
It might, I don't. I mean, it's entirely up to you, it's just my recommendation, you don't, again, and I'm kind of, this, as we said at the outset of the process, this is unique.
Yes.
What
Making
we're
this
going
up
through
to-
here.
Yeah.
But if you go back to a typical interview process, you typically don't take public input. You know, you have a meet and greet maybe, where public can talk to you, or talk to them, that kind of thing, but,
Yeah.
and you don't have public input, it's a decision you guys have to make.
And I didn't want to come here with my mind made up.
Sure. Yeah. Me
I
neither.
mean, that was, you know.
Again, I think, you know, the original plan was that this decision will be made at the actual meeting on Tuesday. So if you're just not comfortable, but you are going to have it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be easier between now and then, you probably should try to struggle to get it done, but.
So, would anyone like to make a motion that we postpone this to the council meeting on May 11th at 6:30 p.m.? I can't make a motion. I can't make a motion. So, okay.
This is not our proudest moment.
It's okay. It's three of y'all, so I can't make a motion. You know,
I wouldn't be ashamed of it, but, you know, just because it's a struggle, that means you're.
Yes.
Like, at the previous, when you did this before, were there multiple candidates that you considered, and did you choose that man?
Okay, without, we're gonna tip the tulips on this one. Mayor Sands is a very strong mayor, and Mayor Sands basically put forth a name and said this is who it's gonna be, and the council pretty much agreed with it. So this
Won't have any
is, we're giving you the
presentation.
opportunity, council, to have a little more input, the residents to know what's going on, to be transparent. This is a completely night and day difference, I think. Even, Eddie, I think you, it's kind of round and all that, this is kind of a night and day difference than it was last time. You know, so we're trying to create a process, keep it transparent, let the people know what's going on. So it is definitely a harder choice. But, you know, like I said, I'm going to express my opinion. It's just a difficult choice. I came in here tonight with my mind open because I wanted to hear what they had to say. And I'm struggling right now with it. I cannot make a motion. I would feel more comfortable seeing this postponed until the 11th at 6:30. To give me a couple of days to think it over. And if the residents wish to approach us between now and then they're free to do that too. I don't think that's not off base to do that either. So, but either I got two options here. Either we can throw a name out and get a second, or we can get a motion to postpone it, or we can be here all night. So, that's our options, folks. It's three options.
I know,
And the point I was gonna walk out. So I'm gonna do.
I know, it's so much easier when we have the people going to the polls.
I know, right?
To
I
choose
know,
someone.
I know.
And, so I don't know if we want to open it up to the folks that are here, how they feel about a particular candidate. I don't know this.
Sir?
I was just listening to what she said, we could probably do it in 30 days.
Oh, and a special election.
Oh,
Special election, yeah.
I-
You think,
I think we've,
I
I
was
mean,
gonna say, I think
I
I
agree
do.
with Marion, it's
Yeah.
obviously easier to go to the polls because it's not up to us.
Right.
But I think postponing it that long is,
And the charter, I think,
we've
is
already
pretty
started
specific
this
about
process.
it.
I want us to finish it, I just
I-
want to make
and-
sure that,
Well, and for me, I struggled on that. When we could have a special election, but the charter really is specific about how that selection will take place. And I'm not trying to just fall back on the charter and blame it on the charter, but the charter is pretty important. Yeah. I mean, it's basically our constitution. It leads this town, and it's very specific on what it says about that. So,
and just a confirmation with you, a second takes it to a vote.
yes.
That does not, or it does
Would open-
not.
It opens, you can have further discussion, you don't have to vote on it as soon as the second's made. But that allows more open discussion about whatever candidate or postponement, whatever motion's about. And then you should have to vote on it.
I mean, because it appears that I'm gonna be the one to get the second.
It is, because I'm.
And then we will vote.
And then
And
we'll
if
vote.
there's 2 and 2,
Then we're gonna,
we've got to discuss it.
so
until we
anytime
get down to
correct me if I'm
3
wrong,
and
anytime we
1
come to the
before
point where it's 2-2, it automatically dies at that point,
Correct.
so it does.
Yes.
It will need a
Motion
third
fails.
vote. Motion fails for not having a majority is what it would do.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I will be calling for, and in this case, because it's such an important event, I'm gonna be calling for a roll call vote. because I want each council member to each specifically say
Right.
yes or no, so we have that on the record for the voters.
I think it's common when someone just wants to really talk about a candidate or an issue to second for discussion,
Doesn't mean.
without saying that that's how I'm going to vote.
Yeah,
Your
they
second-
are.
Your second doesn't mean you're going to vote that way.
Right.
Typically it does, but it doesn't always. Have to, just, it allows for discussion on the topic.
Or you could just make a motion, and one of these two would say. No, at this point, so let's go back to the first one. I'm gonna open the first one up, and then if we get nothing there, we'll go back. So, at this time, do I hear a motion to table this until the next council meeting on May the 11th at 6:30 p.m.?
I make a motion to table until the next meeting.
Okay, I have a motion to table to the next meeting. Do I hear a second to that motion? That's okay. Motion dies for
But
lack of
this
a
is a
second.
good thing, because
It's
we all,
okay. Yeah, it's, I don't think.
that's why people voted for us to be
Yeah.
here, is the fact that we all have different opinions, and that is a great thing.
That is.
Just because I know what you want, and we all have strong opinions, and that's why we're here.
Yes.
So,
And it's okay. I don't take offense to it anyway. I'm here to call and ask for motions and seconds. I don't take this personally in any way, shape, or form. So, okay, so that I'm a lack of a motion. So at this time, I would open up the opportunity for any council member to make a motion about any of the three candidates that they wish to appoint. Do I hear a motion for any of the three candidates that have been presented here tonight?
Can we further discuss rather than make a,
We can discuss it, but I have no
Then
issue
make a motion.
discussing it before the motion. Yeah, I have no
No.
issue at all with that. Yeah, that's not, I mean, we've kind of already been doing that, so I have no
Yeah.
issue with that at all.
yeah.
So,
I think we as a council, and I'm speaking to myself as well, because this is something I'm considering as we're sitting here, is we have to decide, and I mean, what we want and our council to look like, and I don't mean physically look like, but it could include physically look like, but that doesn't sound right, but I mean, we need to, I mean, what we want this person to bring to our table here. Do we want them to bring this aspect, or, you know, I mean, that's what I'm thinking right now. What is the most important priority for our council right now?
can I do this? How about this? Because this has been bounced around a few times. Do I hear a motion that we open this up to public comment? Anybody? No, I mean, does anybody want to make a motion that we open it up and let the public speak at this time?
I make a motion I would love to hear what people have to say,
I
yeah.
have a motion to open to public comment. Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
All right. Do we have any discussion about this before we vote? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries 4-0. All right. Now, here we go. So, what I would ask you to please do is, if you come to the podium for me, state your name and your address, and then we'd love to hear what you'd have to say about this. Don't everybody come running over here at one time right now. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Come on up. Come on up, yes. It's just as hard for y'all too. But there you go.
David Schultz, 808 French Street. My comments are basically to the council that you have all been voted in to do a very hard job. You have a direction in mind of where you want this town to go. And that's what I think you have to look at and pick the right person that is going to work into that plan to move this town to where you want it to go.
Thank you, sir.
That may be easier for you.
Nope.
That's not what I said.
All right. Who else wishes to come up here tonight and speak? Come on up, sir. State your name and your address for the record, please.
My name is David LaVue. I live at 604 2nd Avenue. This is for the council, and I've met everybody, I've seen everybody, I see what everybody does, I just keep my mouth shut. But I know a lot of the people that came up and spoke tonight. I know them better than the way that they came and addressed themselves at this podium. I know one of the men, I ain't gonna say no names, but he cares about the community. He helps, he goes out and he does it on his free time. He's stammered over his words like, I'm only here for one person because I believe in this man. He is a hard worker. And everybody over here, like you, Tanya, what you said about like, come on, we know what we gotta do. If that old piece of crap truck over there has got to, if that's what's gonna get the job done, let's get the job done. Let's do what we gotta do for our community right now. This is a fresh start. Got a brand new face. You know what I mean? Got a lot of attract people on council. Let's get the ball rolling. Forget what it looks like. What's gonna work for us. That's all I got.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else wishes to speak tonight? Never leave it on that, aren't you? Yeah, I know, right? I'm just glad you're not charging us by the hour.
Yeah.
Right.
We changed my contract.
Come on up. If you'll state your name and your address, please.
My name is Harriet Van Slyke. I am part of Helping Hands of Welaka. My address is 2010 Elm Street, here in Welaka. I work hard for the community. I know for a fact that I can call on Kathy to come to help me with anything. Not only can I call her to help me work, but also to give me advice. I do feel that for the Black community here in Welaka, we do need her here. Not only because she's a Christian, but she's a strong person. I don't know the other two gentlemen, but I am impressed with what they said. But they moved here. Kathy has been here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak tonight? You always have something to say now. I never seen you without you got something to speak.
So as we prepare to take a vote, whether it be tonight or Tuesday, the ones of you who are not expressing your opinions, you don't have to express them tonight, but if we wait until Tuesday, we certainly would hope you would, we are at your service. I mean, we are here to serve what your needs are and what you want. So I'm encouraging you not to hold your peace, to actually to let us know what you think, because we need what you want. I mean, we can make a decision, and we will make a decision, but we definitely need your input.
Madam Council President, would you like to make a motion to adjourn, to postpone this tonight to the meeting?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Let's postpone our vote until Tuesday, May 11th, and we'll fit that into the agenda.
Okay, I have a motion to postpone the decision tonight to the regular call council meeting in the town of Welaka on May the 11th at 6:30 p.m. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 4-0. If there be no further business before this council, yes,
You
ma'am.
can bring them back in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. I didn't set them out there. I said them out there. Can you please go get them, or she's going to get them tonight? So, watch this. Watch this. Right. Do the other two just leave? That makes it easy. It was a tough decision, but what we came up with is we're gonna let y'all take turns setting up. So, no, this is a very difficult decision, and we debated this. We sought motions to choose one of you. We opened it up to public input. As I said earlier, each one of you are qualified. With that being said, the council feels like that they need some time to digest all the great information that each and every one of you shared with us tonight. So a motion was made, seconded, and passed unanimously to postpone this into the regular council meeting on Tuesday night, May the 11th at 6:30 p.m. That night, a decision will be made. There will be the clerk of the court here. He will be swearing in one of the three of you as a council member, and you will take your seat with his council that night. So we're going to take a few days to think this over. I know that this is being broadcast on Facebook and YouTube, so I'll speak to those that are watching live now, or go back and watch this. If you wish to reach out to us concerning this, anyone that sticks out to you that y'all would like to see, please reach out to your council members. The email addresses are on the Facebook. I'll actually stick them onto this post. Reach out to us. We would love to hear your input. It's a tough decision. The fact that we cannot come to a consensus tonight just tells you just how difficult this decision is. We thank you for coming out, for taking the time to be with us, for putting your names forward tonight. Give us a few days to think about this, and we will let one of you know that night, and the other two of you, I don't know who that's going to be, but there are other places and opportunities for y'all to serve. You are experienced, and you have a lot to bring to this town, and we don't want to lose you regardless of who we may put here. There are other opportunities to serve. We don't want to lose you on that. So thank y'all for coming out. We will see you at 6:30, May the 11th, for our regular call council meeting that night. If I hear no objection, there be no further business to this town council, this meeting will stand adjourned.